Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is our last session, but we thought we will introduce this to just begin the discussion on how we can leverage Zakat for financial inclusion and empowerment. This is a big issue, but experience in some jurisdictions shows that, and including our own National Zakat Foundation here, experience shows that, and Mufti Sahib will bear me out, that when people see the Zakat being used appropriately and properly, they give more. And they give with their hearts, and they give more than Zakat. So really, it's our job to show them how we can use Zakat. And if you consider a country like Pakistan, for example, the amount of Zakat available is just unbelievable. We just need to be able to mobilize that for the purposes which we see. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Muhammad Kroisin, who is the head of microfinance at Islamic Relief Worldwide. It's probably the biggest Muslim charity in this country, with an annual turnover of about 120 million pounds plus, spread global. And I think they have ukhuwat on their board in Pakistan as well, as I understand. So they have both angles. So he is well qualified to lead this discussion. He has been pestering me for 3 years now. So please open this debate. So Muhammad, this is your chance.
Thank you, Brother Iqbal. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. And welcome to the final session. It's a difficult session, so we were trying to keep you engaged. We're not trying to keep you here for longer or much longer than the program. Obviously, what Brother Iqbal was trying to do before the session and before the conference was trying to get takaful insurance on our timekeeping, but no one wanted to actually help him out with this one. So we have to do our best now to recover the lost minutes over the last 3 days or so. Well, you may ask yourself a little bit, and Iqbal's already hinted, and of course Dr. Amjad Saqib has also enlightened us already, why we should even talk about Zakat. It's not really anything new, right? I mean, Muslims have now given Zakat and used Zakat for over 1400 years. But without wanting really to delve into history or theology in a great way, we haven't got a lot of time, I think you will all agree that Zakat, from the collection to the distribution, is still a work in progress 1400 years later. And of course, it is also, of course, a changing, the goalposts are changing, right? So in the 21st century, we have different issues that we have to deal with. And therefore, we have to think also slightly outside the box and question our own paradigms. Today's panel will hopefully shed some light on how we can use Zakat in the way that it can really live up to the way that our Creator has divinely ordained this system to make it take on the challenges of the 21st century. We have here with us today Mufti Faraz Adam, who is the head of research at the National Zakat Foundation. We have also with us Shaykh Azman Ismail, who is the president of IIFIN Consulting, also an expert in the area of Shariah and finance. And we have with us also Sheikh Mohammed Gunawan Yasni, who is the chair of the supervisory board of the Astra Insurance in Indonesia. We should have with us today Sheikh Zubair from Cobalt. Unfortunately, his son has an operation today. We pray that Allah will give him health and swift recovery from this operation. But we have a very knowledgeable panel here today. So what is the challenge really for this panel today? Well, you might say still today we have 700 million people living in the Muslim world who are below or around the poverty line. Okay? That's really in the nutshell the problem that we have. That's, of course, in many sub-Saharan African countries, South Asia, Central Asia, and as Mufti Faraz will explain to us, also in the UK. So very interesting case studies there. Well, this begs the question, those 700 million questions I think that we have to ask, and Dr. Amjad was very passionate about looking after and caring and sharing after every single person who needs our help. But there's 700 million people out there, as I said, who are around the poverty line. And yesterday we had the World Bank saying that's $1.25 a day, so that's not an awful lot, really. So 700 million reasons and 700 million questions, really. At the same time, academics now have looked at the potential zakah that could be collected. It's very difficult statistically to exactly identify because different countries have different arrangements for zakah. Some, as we see later on, are actually collected through government, inland revenue services, for example. Others are completely left to the private individual. But looking at GDP per capita and, if you like, the zakah thresholds, there are very rough estimates which say the potential for zakah ranges between $200 billion and $1 trillion per annum. Okay? Now, the Islamic finance industry usually pats itself on the shoulder and says, well done, we've now got $2 trillion of assets under management. Well, the zakah contribution, the potential zakah contribution of the Muslim world alone in 2 years would outdo what you've got of assets under management. The main question is now how we can harness, of course, this massive power. And it's actually really massive because if you compare this to the official development aid that OECD countries give, the US, the UK, etc., actually, it's completely outdoing it by, at the lowest estimate, of a factor of 10. Okay? Because together, the rich countries only give about $13 billion of development aid per year. Okay? So we've got a massive gap that zakah could plug. Now, has the UN cottoned onto this? Yes, they have. So the UN has begun, for example, in Jordan to collect zakat. Oxfam in the UK is making zakat appeals, so even non-governmental organizations are now going into this area because it's simply a massive area of mobilizing capital for poverty reduction. So the potential volume is one aspect, obviously. The other is impact. Okay, so we could say we have a trillion or $2 trillion, but what you do with it, of course, will also make a very big difference. This is why my panelists will look at zakah through this paradigm of this lens of financial inclusion, because that's really the theme of the summit, and also, of course, through the lens of empowerment. And here, financial inclusion we really define as having access to a useful and affordable financial service system that includes loans, insurance, obviously, but also savings and money transfer. And empowerment, generally, just from an English language perspective, is the process of becoming stronger and independent. So that's really what we want the panel to do today. Let's hear, first of all, from the National Zakat Foundation and Mufti Faraz about that very novel way of how the National Zakat Foundation has conceptualized zakat collection and distribution.
In the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you. I'd like to thank the organizers for putting this event together. So the National Zakat Foundation, I've called this presentation the power of zakat because, as the brother was saying, that zakat has immense power, but it's an untapped resource. It's a dormant resource. The moment we mobilize, harness the power of zakat, we can literally change the landscape of the earth. And we truly believe that at the National Zakat Foundation. So this short slide, I'm just telling you what we do at the National Zakat Foundation, and hopefully then we can get a discussion going. So who are the National Zakat Foundation? Our mission is to distribute zakat transformatively in the UK. Look at the word, the key word here is transformatively. Right? That's what the power of zakat is. Since 2011, the National Zakat Foundation has helped over 10,000 people in the UK by distributing over 10 million people. So the National Zakat Foundation, we only focus on the UK. Any zakat that we collect, it stays within the borders of the UK. None of the zakat goes overseas. In 2018 alone, we supported over 2,500 people. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you would say that there's poverty in the UK, people would laugh at you. People wouldn't believe poverty. But now we've seen on almost every mainstream media outlet, we've seen stories of rough sleepers. We've seen statistics on how poverty is damaging lives, damaging children. So poverty now is something real in the UK. And the work the National Zakat Foundation has been doing is to really educate the Muslim community first and foremost that zakat is there to help the needy people around you, your neighbors, first and foremost. Right? And that's why in these years alone, we've collected 10 million pounds of zakat and distributed. According to the Muslim Charities Forum, they estimated in the month of Ramadan, the fasting month, there was 100 million pounds of zakat collected in the UK. That's in 1 month, 100 million pounds of zakat. From the majority of it is paid overseas still, because we have many worthy and noble causes overseas, without a shadow of a doubt, right? And a very small amount of that is paid within the UK. And the National Zakat Foundation is one of those organizations which receives zakat for those who pay locally. So what's our model? How do we work? How do we empower people? Very simple. An application will come in, right? These applications are referrals from any from the government, the local councils, local authorities, the police, hospitals. The National Zakat Foundation, we have created a network and team and with different organizations across the country. So if there's any Muslim who's vulnerable, in a vulnerable situation, we receive calls from a number of people. Recently, well, it was last year, Jeremy Corbyn also mentioned the National Zakat Foundation. Right? So you can hear the noise, you can see the noise that's being made by the National Zakat Foundation. So referrals are forwarded to us. They come in. Then we have a team of specially trained officers, program officers, who then receive the application. They collect the evidence. They see what the person's needs are. What does this person need? What is this person lacking? What is the problem? How can we help them? Then a decision is made, right? Can we assist them? Or can we refer them to an organization who can do the job better than us? And our goal and target is always one of two things. Either to meet the costs of basic essentials, number one, or number two, fund empowerment activities that will reduce expenses or increase income. So that's our target. We're always trying to do one of two things. Okay? Meet their basic essentials. Make sure that they don't dip below the basic essentials. Or number two, empower them. Educate them. Open opportunities for them. Facilitate a new horizon for them. Okay? So an example of that, just one short video for us to all see.
My zakat helped Mubarak get back into work. Mubarak was a talented locksmith in Sudan, but everything was different in the UK. He didn't have the right skills and couldn't afford training. He lost all hope that things would ever get better. At his lowest point, someone told him about National Zakat Foundation. NZF used My Zakat to pay for Mubarak's retraining, accommodation and food. Mubarak completed his training and got a job as a locksmith. He got his life back and could support himself, doing what he loved. My Zakat helped Mubarak restore his confidence and gave him stability. That's why I believe in the power of zakat.
Very simple, very simple. Just a small change. All he needed was resources for him to just do that qualification he needed. He had the skills already. And that changed his entire life. So it's those kind of changes that the National Zakat Foundation we look for and we try to really capitalize on. Now, how can we make those small changes in people's lives which unlock the potential that the people have within themselves? Another example is, or a case study that came up recently, was a sister, Tanzila. She was from Bangladesh originally, so her husband, she was heavily pregnant, her husband took her over to Bangladesh. He left her there with a mother in Bangladesh. He came home. She gave birth in Bangladesh to a newborn, and then she came back to the UK after a couple of months. She left her eldest son in Bangladesh. She comes back to the UK Lo and behold, her husband has run away, nowhere to be found. She went to the home property, was a rented property. There's no sign of her husband. In fact, some other people are living there. Everything's been changed for her. She has nowhere to go to. So the council came in, gave her emergency accommodation. Remember, in the UK, we work within a social welfare system. So NZF, we work with the social services and the councils to provide the best solution. The council came in, gave her temporary accommodation in the middle of nowhere on the seaside. She had to share the baths, toilets. It was public baths and public toilets. She was sharing that. And she just gave birth. Right? So she's in the middle of nowhere. She doesn't know anybody around, has no support. At that time, she got connected to the National Zakat Foundation. Now what we did, we ensured that she gets moved from where she is. We pressured the social services. They moved her as a result to a 2-bedroom flat. We then came in, helped her with her immigration application to bring her children over, and then we tried to find a way that how can we make her self-sustainable. And she's still being supported in that progress. So we don't leave anybody. We try not to leave anybody out there. From the 6,000 cases that we've been dealing with this year alone, I'd say 99% of cases, completed applications, have been supported by the National Zakat Foundation. When the case comes through, and we feel that at that moment in time, there's sufficient evidence to support them, then we support them straight away with a cash grant. And then we work with them to develop them, to assist them to become self-sustainable. And under the National Zakat Foundation, we don't only help in the distribution of zakah, one of the other key areas of our work is the collection of zakah. And we've noticed, and Brother Muhammad and the panelists will also agree, that education on zakah is lacking amongst the community. Nobody really knows much about zakah, how to calculate. So the zakah that is being paid, firstly, it's not being paid correctly. Many people are not calculating their zakat correctly. Many people are not paying zakat at all. So the National Zakat Foundation, we take a responsibility upon ourselves to educate the people about zakat, how to calculate zakah. Right? And that's what I'm involved in on a day-to-day basis as well. So if you want to know more, that's the website. And I'll just leave you with this. Thank you very much.
And now Shaykh Azman will enlighten us on how zakat actually is used already for microfinance and takaful in Malaysia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The title is here is Using Zakat for Empowerment in Indonesia and Malaysia, but the title that I'm using is slightly different. That was given by Brother Iqbal, and furthermore, I cannot talk about Indonesia. It's very dangerous, and I don't want to mess with the Indonesians, because for every one Malaysian, there are 9 Indonesians. And the whole population of Malaysia is less than the population of the greater Jakarta, the capital. So if they pee in Kuala Lumpur, our Kuala Lumpur will be flooded with their urine. So it's a problem for us, although we can convert the urine into what they call pure water and drink it. We still don't want to mess with them, because they can easily burn their oil palm plantations. And every time one oil palm plantation in Indonesia is burned, 50 people in Malaysia will go to hospital, will be admitted. So don't want to mess with them. And furthermore, what happened is that the language is different. When you read the reports and so on of the Indonesians and Malaysians, although most of the terms are similar, but sometimes the term is different, although the same word is used. For example, we have a word called pusing. In Malaysia, it means going round, but in Indonesia, it's headache. So when you ask your friend, let's go round town today, he would think that let's have a headache around town today. And when you talk about Ibu Pejabat, which is headquarters, in Indonesia it doesn't mean headquarters. It means the wife of the CEO. So when you want to rent for your headquarters, they think that you want to rent for the wife of the CEO. And similarly, when you say pengurus cawangan, in Malaysia we say pengurus cawangan, which is branch manager. But in Indonesia, they say kepala cabang, which literally means head of the tree trunk. So I don't want to do that. But you look at Malaysia, and because cultures is different, Indonesia is different, Malaysia is different. Here I have this beautiful photo by Brother Bobby. I borrowed, and you must understand that when we talk something, it has to be embedded and understood in the cultural context. And in Malaysia, the context is very unique because we have 9 sultan in the world. 7. Out of 10 sultan in the world, 7 is in Malaysia. 7 are in Malaysia. So you see that we have 70% of all the sultans in the world. The other sultan is Sultan Qaboos of Oman, Sultan Brunei, and of course Sultan Yogyakarta, Sultan Hamengkubuwono. So we have 3, all of the rest are in Malaysia. And you plus 2 kings, so in total we have 9 kings in the world. Out of the 20 kings around the world, 9 are in Malaysia. So you see the context is different. And a total of 14 jurisdictions. And the zakat in Malaysia are 14 different. We don't have a central zakat like you all, or in Indonesia. We have 14 different state zakat. So each sultan or king is the head of the zakat. And sometimes it's not fully harmonized because, for example, salary. During the Prophet's time, there's no salary. So some states like Perak, one state, they say, no, we cannot collect zakat salary on zakat on salary because it was not done during the Prophet's time. But the rest say, no, so all these arguments come in. And also we need to understand the language. On the left-hand side, you see this Malaysian, although it's posted, but it's actually a Malaysian private customer parking only. All others will be towed. So this is a problem because some are frogs. And on the right-hand side, what it means is, ayam sunat ada dijual di sini. Sunat means, ayam means chicken, sunat means circumcision. That means circumcised chicken sold here. So what they mean is not circumcised chicken. They mean is the chicken that is slaughtered properly. So, sunat means circumcision, ayam means chicken. So, what they mean is halal chicken sold here. So, zakat collection profile. So, we promote zakat on salary. That will increase a lot because you just wait for the annual zakat for Ramadan is too little. And then we have there are 2 tax incentives. For individuals, let's say I have to pay tax £1,000 today for this year. So, if I pay zakat, I don't need to pay tax. So I pay £1,000 of zakat, I don't need to pay tax. On the corporations, if they pay zakat, it's considered as expenses. So this is the way that we want to encourage people to pay zakat. And for IIFI, Islamic Financial Institution, it is compulsory. And also we have what we call cleansing of funds because some of the institution, they invest in haram, inadvertently, not on purpose, so they pay zakat, they call it tazkiyah there. So, this is a zakat collection. We also appoint amils, we appoint sometimes, in Ramadan, we even have shopping complexes, so you can pay zakat in shopping complexes. And what happens here, we now use in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor that immediately you get the receipt. The modern technology from the phone, the zakat collector will use the phone to print your receipt immediately. And one thing about Malaysia, you can see that 260XXX is very unique. In Malaysia, we like triple X. So anything when you want to sell, they say XXX. You don't understand this, but this is the way we do. And the zakat system follows that kind of thinking. So current use of zakat, whether empowered or not, there are 5 areas we do. Number 1 is the asnaf development. So normally we give monthly financial aid. And then for Aidil Fitri, we also give some aid. And for the takaful, we give for those who get the microfinance. So if they get the microfinance, we give the takaful free. That means we pay to the takaful, and actually it's not much. It's about 1% if you are age 30 and below, and maybe 2-3% if you are above 40. So we pay for the takaful, but in future I think they should have their own takaful fund. And then we help solve debts because Malaysians, they like to be in debt. In fact, the word we use is a problem. When you say you have is there a way They don't use the word way. Chinese will say way. Is there a way to, a road? They call it, is there a road? But Malays, they will say, is there a hole? That's why many Malays, Muslim, they fall into the hole of debts. And then medical aid we give, and then Shariah legal aid, especially to the women. Sometimes it's said that unfortunately or fortunately, the system is like that. It's not against women. It's just that I know personally many cases whereby the mother will not get the custody of the children because they don't have the income and so on. And then we do with marriage help. We give. So the marriage is normally we do in groups. It's safe. That means 10 couples, 20 couples per at the same time. I think in Pakistan also they do that. And then we do emergency help and so on. These are some of the Asnaf development. And then the residents, we pay for their home, rental and deposits, and also build a home or repair a home for low cost. So they fill up a form and so on. And then self-reliance, this is a microfinance. So we do, the Zakat will give business assistance for agriculture, for so on. So you all have the locksmith case. We have a case. We have many cases, in fact. But the case that I still remember well was 20 years ago. At that time, a poor couple, they buy scrap. They look for scrap metal, working for another man. They use the rickshaw. They obtained about 1 to 2 pounds a day at that time, but later on they got loan for financing or free loan to not free loan, free zakat money to buy a small lorry, and they improve their lives. And then we have some others here. I won't go into details because time is too short. And education is, of course, very important. We have all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can look at it. And development of the Ummah, we also give assistance to welfare agencies like NGOs and educational institutions. And then we also have the Tahfiz institution help. We do help because the problem with Malaysians, the Tahfiz or the Mahat Tahfiz, they call it. Our brothers, they just want to, when I ask them, okay, I want to set up a Tahfiz school. Okay, what is your plan? There's no plan. They don't know what's the call. They don't know everything that they just want to set up. So we have many of that, and we have problems. After 1 year, they back on the roads and so on. So on the streets and so on. So this is also where the zakat money, some of the zakat money we give. So these are some of the areas that we do. Wabillahi taufiq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Azman, for both the enlightening and the light-hearted. I think very appropriate this time of the day to get you ready for a now question and answer session. Well, I think we need to just delve very briefly into the Malaysian model before we let the Indonesians strike back. In the way that microfinance and takaful are here financed from zakat, are you speaking about the actual loan capital or the insurance, the takaful contribution? Or what's the structure, and how did you convince and work with the Sharia scholars to make that happen?
Okay, interestingly, the zakat, we have, as I said, 14 different institutions. So each one, they have different scholars. So maybe in this place, this scholar disagree, but in another place, the scholar agree. We managed to convince some of them to say that, look, we need to understand the context, not only the text, but the context of the Prophet saying. When the Prophet said something, what is the context? It's not like you need to help. For example, when you say, the Prophet said, a newborn baby that does not cry will not inherit. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that the newborn baby did not cry will not inherit. What is a stillborn baby will not inherit? Similarly with zakat, when you say you must give out within the year, what does it mean? So these are the things that, the new things, ijtihad that, Qardawi said, creative, constructive ijtihad. I think this is where we also follow Qardawi's fiqh zakat.
Thank you. This brings me over to the National Zakat Foundation and Mufti Faraz. Is it thinkable, without delving into theological and fiqh details, it's not quite the time for it, on a Friday afternoon, But is it thinkable that we can set up, for example, there's licensing issue, but a credit union, for example, with zakat money?
To be honest, I think more or less anything can be structured if it's done properly with the right minds on the table. There's always a solution. I think that's how we have to approach such topics. We have to have the right people on the table. We have to have the right Sharia scholars on the table who understand the market, who understand zakat properly, who understand Islamic finance properly, who understand text and context, right? And something can always be structured. So there's never a no, right? There's always a solution. Sometimes the answer might not always be zakat, because zakat has specifics, but zakat can be used for a number of things, which we have to still explore. Because this idea of using zakat is still in its infancy. We're still in the infancy right now. This is a time of knowledge creation, understanding the context and the text together.
Well, that's an interesting opening, surely, and Mufti Zubair, as I said, who gave his apologies, was very interested in this particular debate, and I think that's something we want to watch, because obviously it could unlock a massive problem that we have. If we can get the zakat flows in a accountable manner, financial inclusion would be a critical tool for sure. Now, obviously, zakat it's a little bit of a football in many ways in many Muslim countries, right? It's been, Malaysia seems to have, its own Premier League and, other setups and different referees, blowing the whistle on what is possible and what is halal, what is not doable. Now, obviously, I think it is very important to understand that now secular agencies are also trying to, of course, get a slice of that cake. It's very large. I mean, even at the lowest estimate, as you said, it's 200 billion per annum, and that's, a significant amount of money. So the UN is doing this, Shaykh Gunawan, in Indonesia, how are you dealing with creating, if you like, zakat collection and distribution institutions that have that credibility? Because one of the issues that we have is really that a number of the traditional zakat collection institutions in the Muslim world, state-run, are not very credible in the eyes of the normal person. How does Indonesia work around this and create trusted and credible and impactful zakat institutions?
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will, give some factual facts, actually, some factual facts about what we have done in Indonesia. Zakat for the Indonesian Muslim is taken into account as an increasing your non-taxable income. So it can be taken into account into your, what do you call it, a tax report, like yearly tax report. So now it is centralized in some government, not really owned, but the government initiated establishment. The organization is called Basnas. In Bahasa Indonesia is Badan Amil Zakat Nasional, or the National Amil Zakat Organization. So this is nationwide and this is centralized. And Badan Amil Zakat Nasional, of course, has like big branches as well as small branches throughout all provinces of Indonesia. So unlike Malaysia, it is not really centralized. We have the centralized zakat system in Indonesia. And it is the identity number of the muzaki is also known into the report of the identity number for the Muslim taxpayer. Because of it can be your increasing number to your non-taxable income. So we put it like that. We have integrated system with the tax payment system as well as in the zakat payment system. So even in Sharia banking, we go further. Like payment of your revenue sharing, as in your Sharia saving account in Sharia bank, can be deducted, as we call professional zakat, based on initial standing instruction. And it is also collected to the Badan Amil Zakat Nasional, or the nationwide Amil Zakat organization. So every month you will get notification via email, short message services, or even WhatsApp chat, or even in your mobile banking application. So you will have this notification monthly, or you can just download it through the some mobile apps for the yearly base, because you have to report that to the tax office. And that's the way it is. I mean, by all means, it is very easy doing zakat payment as well as tax payment. So, but this is already done. I mean, since like 5 years ago, Basnas is already like the central bank of zakat. The central bank of zakat, like the central bank of zakat throughout Indonesia. It doesn't mean that Basnas kills all of those independent zakat collections organizations, no. But all of those zakat collections organizations are now under Basnas. So they have to, to report to Basnas. So Basnas will coordinate with them, especially for the Asnaf database. So whenever we have disaster in, say, in Nusa Tenggara Barat, which is far away from Jakarta, we can, Basnas can easily move, the fund of the Muzaki from Jakarta to be given to the people of Nusa Tenggara Barat. So that easy. I mean, it's that easy. So what we are going to focus next, I would like to share in this forum. Next effort of the National Shariah Board, Indonesian Council of Ulamas, will be that Basnas should be part of the Ministry of Finance, that zakat tax should be more integrated, right? So we will have to look at the best tax system in the world, which is, I believe it is the government of New Zealand, because the government of New Zealand, as I know, only take into account around 10% of the internal government budget, and the rest of the tax goes back to the people, to the homeless indigenous Maori people, home subsidy, enhancing roads, schools, etc. If the government is an amil, as an amil zakat, right? Amil is entitled of 1/8, which is 12.5% of the collection of zakat. And the government of New Zealand, they only take like 10% of the whole, the whole tax that they collect from the people, and the 90% goes back to the people. So this is the system that we would like to integrate within the zakat as well as the tax payment in Indonesia. And I am hopeful, very hopeful for this, because as I said yesterday in the Indonesia Green Sukuk session, that the chairman of the National Shariah Board now, Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, is the vice president elected. So this is the advantage for us, the youngsters at the National Shariah Board. I myself is one of the 12 collegial chairmanship in this National Shariah Board. So whenever Pak Kiai Ma'ruf Amin cannot do his duty, so one of us will, step up to substitute him. So in this case, because he is the vice president elected, so he cannot be the chairman of the National Shariah Board, maybe he will, appoint one of us to substitute him for the next period.
Okay, 10 seconds. Actually, I didn't really answer your question. Yes, the zakat give microfinance to the poor and also pay the premium of takaful.
This allows, brother, just to clarify very briefly as well, what your Indonesian colleagues on the Sharia board, what is their and your own opinion perhaps on the possibility of using zakat directly for premium contributions and also for loan capital?
Yeah. In Indonesia, of course, the authoritative institution for giving fatwas is on the Indonesian Council of Ulama. So I don't think we will have, different Sharia opinion because if it just comes from someone like me giving opinion, it is not the opinion of the Mufti, because in Indonesia there is no one Mufti. The only Mufti is the Indonesian Council of Ulama. So only Indonesian Council of Ulama can really affect the understanding of the whole people. So about the calculation of zakat, of course, we have many means to educate the people. Even as simple as we created a lot of zakat organization, the independent ones. They have created like a zakat calculator. So everyone can just access that as easy, so they can calculate their zakat. Even in Sharia bank, we will give them, some tutorial on how to calculate your zakat.
But any major obstacles that you see in terms of utilizing zakat money for takaful contributions premiums or for microfinance capital, loan capital?
No, I don't think, because the lower income people usually they are categorized as miskin, perhaps, right? And giving it to a larger number to some program that a lot of people can really benefit from it. It can be categorized as fi sabilillah. So this is just the way to categorize the asnaf, and of course National Sharia Board, Indonesian Council of Ulama can really agree on that kind of discussion, and we have agreed in many things. Even we just issued a new fatwa. Not just stating about the zakat, but it is stating about if Sharia bank or Sharia financial institution, they cannot fulfill the rukun and the syarat of the financing, then the margin or the revenue sharing coming from it, they cannot really state it as their own profit. It has to go into charity. So this is, the Sharia rulings that we have been trying to give to the people, to the industry, in order to make a bigger funding for this kind of zakat, wakaf, infaq, and sadaqah. That is what's happening in Indonesia now.
Sheikh Azman, what are the hallmarks of a zakat program? Also, you can learn from your Indonesian neighbors if you like. What are the hallmarks of a zakat program? The hallmarks, the quality, the things that make it a quality zakat program in the Sharia sense, obviously within the understanding of the context and otherwise, that empowers people and financially includes them. What are the key criteria that you'd like to see if we had a blank canvas, right?
Basically, one word: efficiency. We are not efficient in the collection and distribution of zakat. This is still the problem in many places, and of course, centralization is another thing which I don't think we can follow the Indonesians, because Indonesian, they don't have the history like us. They were left by the Dutch. The Dutch didn't have anything, so they have to create themselves. We are left by the British, and the British say, we have so many kings and so on, so it's difficult. The constitution, because of constitutional, we have to do a constitutional reform to change. But I think that's okay. The efficiency is more important.
Mufti Faraz, now we're looking at the zakat as an institution, okay. But of course, nowadays, it's a consumer choice as well in many countries, right? I mean, maybe not in Indonesia, but because your zakat is deducted out of your tax every month, right? But if there was consumer choice, if the Muzaki had a choice, right? And in the UK is a very classic example of Pakistan or any other country where zakat may be not collected through the state, you know, and you have private individuals that might be collecting zakat or charity organizations. What, if you like, should the Muzaki look out for to identify? And I don't want to hear a brand now, okay? But, you know, what are the kind of, you know, looking, you know, if you say the institution has to be efficient and transparent, what are the kind of things that the Muzaki can use to understand that this organization really can deliver its zakat in the way that it does empower?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point because the UK is very different, right, to Indonesia, to Malaysia. The challenges we face nationally here are different to what they face there. We don't have a centralized body at all. Consumers are the ones in the driving seat, right? It's the market that leads what happens. Whereas up here, it's like more of a top-down, way more of a bottom-up kind of model that we're facing in the UK. So if it's about what would the muzakki, the zakat payer, would look for, I would say it's about impact, right? It's more about impact. Because everybody pays the zakat, but what we want is to see really impactful zakat. That's what I'd say. That's the key word, impact.
Okay, I'm just looking at Iqbal. We might have 5 minutes, and we would be happy to open the floor for questions. Again, in the interest of time, it's primarily questions and not comments or statements. We can have bilateral discussions with our shuyukh later on. So I'm starting on the right. Anybody on the right? Yes, there's we have a microphone just available behind you.
I have a question for you, brother. This is Wahid Kasser. I've been hearing since yesterday a figure of between 200 billion to $1 trillion in terms of the zakah. What is the source of that information?
Okay, we can come to this in a minute. Just collect a few questions. Yes, so yes, in the center here.
Thank you, Dr. Crozin. My question to the distinguished panelist is essentially, as someone who pays zakat, can I use my zakat to pay the premium, the micro takaful premium on behalf of someone who's in need? Thank you.
Yeah. And on the left-hand side, Dr. Saab, and then Iqbal.
You know, I have a very, very simple question and guidance from all of you. You know, we, as I explained in my last session, we have a revolving fund, that is the credit pool, which we have raised through donations from well-to-do people who believe in charity. And so far, almost all of the amount which has been donated is sadaqat. So we, you know, give that money as microfinance to the poor people, get it back, then give somebody else, then get it back. So it's a revolving fund. People usually ask us that whether we can give zakat to a khawat, and a khawat can creatively then, you know, distribute it again and again and again and again. The one, you know, question they ask is that according to their interpretation, zakat money once given to somebody who was poor should not be taken back. But in our case, we take it back. But the thing which we need to consider is that they give zakat to an institution, and institution doesn't give it back to the, you know, zakat giver. It creatively uses it for poverty alleviation and for the impact creation, which you have rightly mentioned, that what is the, you know, impact. And one of the scholars, famous scholars in Pakistan, they said that zakat can be utilized for microfinance because if zakat is not utilized for poverty alleviation, what else is the purpose? But a good number of religious scholars say that only sadaqats should be given to a khawat for its microfinance program. So I want your, you know, guidance on this.
Did you? No. There was one more question over there, yes? And then we can hopefully answer them.
My name's Artificial. It's a question for you, but also anybody in the room that might want to come and answer it for me afterwards. How can we, is there a way to use the concept of waqf to utilize donations that are made to charities so that, one, we are, investors see sustainability of funds maybe, or their donations, but also how we can work with charities for them to understand that this actually could be a different way of having a continuous flow of donations. It's something I've been thinking about for a while, and I'm just trying to work out what that model looks like in the UK particularly.
Excellent. Okay, very briefly, just on the figures that are being quoted here. So, academics Habib Ahmed, for example, from Durham University, has done some work on this, and Monzakaf as well. So, looking basically at GDP per capita, then estimating on how many people in the country, in terms of both the religious spread and the age spread, are eligible for zakah, and then trying to extrapolate the potential zakah obligation within that national economy. Okay. So these are estimates, obviously, and even more difficult actually it is to figure out what the current flows are. But yeah, they're estimates, so we have to take them with a pinch of salt. They will be, however, significant, even if they're less than 200 billion, or even if they're more than the 2 trillion. They will be nevertheless significant, given both the rapid income growth in many Muslim countries in the GCC, also, of course, in Southeast Asia and South Asia. So there are significant zakah monies already collected, and more could be done. And that you can have a look at Durham University's work. Habib Ahmed, very well known for this sort of research, and also Munzakaf has done some work on this. Then we've got a number of more critical questions. I can just throw in the question of what we heard on the philanthropy side of things. I mean, there are, for example, concepts around cash waqf, okay, which would be very interesting. And again, I would like to hear from our scholars about how we can operationalize that, because that would bring together the idea of revolving lending and philanthropy and enshrining it in a in a sustainable Islamic finance instrument.
I'd just like to say, with regards to the waqf question, right? In the UK, there are many conversations taking place about waqf right now. Me personally, I'm involved in a few. So you will be seeing waqf coming soon in the landscape of the UK. But it's just something that it's not been really. And Brother Muhammad's been working in waqf in that field anyway. So there are these ideas out there. It just has to be operationalized, that's all.
Okay, for your sister, for the question, actually I have written a book on this, Islamic Inheritance Planning, and what chapter is dedicated to Waqf. Remind me to give you the book, but not today, because I don't have it with me. And our brother, I cannot answer for UK, because as I said yesterday, تغير الحكم بالتغير الزمان والمكان والحال. That means the ruling is based on the time, condition, and place. So the place and time is in UK, so our brother is more suited to answer. And for as our Akhuwat, I think same answer. But I don't want to interfere with the Pakistani thinking, because your scholars have different thinking than our scholars. So maybe you discuss with your scholars over there, unfortunately. But privately, I can talk to you later, because I don't want to, sometimes.
Off the record.
My opinion is okay. But I dare not, if it's publicized. I am willing to defend the opinion, but this is not the time, because of you take sometimes 2-3 hours to debate. So my opinion is okay. But there's a way how to do it. It's slightly, I can discuss with you afterwards how we do it, how we can do it.
All right. About zakat for needy in paying micro takaful. Again, I would be agreeing with Professor Azman opinion, because we are not in Indonesia, we are not in UK. I'm not based in UK, But if the needy can be categorized as fakir or miskin, and this micro takaful is for the social security for them, I would say individually that it can be done using zakat. Okay, but I think it is more appropriate if we can just use infaq, sodaqah, or waqaf. In this case, for Qardul Hasan. So, doctor from the Akhwat, I think if you want to do some crowdfunding in this case, I'm not advising you to use the zakat fund, but instead I'm advising you to use the infaq, sadaqah, waqaf fund. And just to give you some sharing facts in Indonesia. Now, beside Basnas, Badan Amil Zakat Nasional, which is a central organization for the nationwide zakat, we also have the central organization for the nationwide waqaf. And this Badan Waqaf Indonesia, we call it, is a very rich organization. Government initiative, but independent from the government also. They are very rich because they coordinate the how do you call it, the beneficial ownership of nationwide anything, from malls, from government offices, and so they are very rich, and they can just easily do anything. I mean, now we have this program called Bank Wakaf Mikro, we call it. So it is actually a Shariah microfinance, but some of the amount to establish this Bank Wakaf Mikro is considered as Wakaf. Say each institution can be given like 4 billion rupiah. You have to divide that in Great Britain pound. It will be, you have to divide with 18,000. 18,000, yeah, 80,000. 80,000 rupiahs per one Great Britain pound. So it is a small number, but half of it, you cannot use half of it, the initial one. You can only use the 2 billion one to do Qardul Hasan, to do Murabahah, to do Mudharabah, whatever the Sharia Akad you want to use. You are acting like the Sharia microfinance, but the 2 billion stays in the Sharia bank, and the revenue sharing from the Sharia bank is used to finance the administration, the operational cost of this Bank Wakaf Mikro. That's how we do it in Indonesia, I guess. That's it.
Well, I think fantastic questions from you, fantastic answers, lots of food for thought. Yesterday we had the World Bank giving us acronyms. Iqbal protested, we don't want more, but I think yesterday the World Bank said it's about MFD, maximizing finance for development. I think today what we learned, both in terms of the zakat potential, the requirement, and the hope, and the good practice that we've seen in terms of how efficient and transparent zakat can be collected and distributed. I think we can coin another phrase or acronym, which would be maximizing zakat for empowerment, so MZE, if you wish, and that's maybe the takeaway for today. I would like to thank you, of course, for having made this Friday afternoon session so beneficial and enjoyable. You've given us an extra 15 minutes as well. Thursday, sorry. I'm already one day ahead of the game, obviously. Very appreciative of you for giving us the extra 15 minutes. Appreciative to my panelists for having given us their time. The odd fatwa as well thrown in there, pro bono. And of course, they are at your disposal later on, perhaps during the dinner or just after the session. And over to Iqbal to guide us to the closure of the event.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, and the panel. No doubt, from time to time, we will need to quiz you again to see if the text and context has changed or not. If it changes, obviously, we will have more development on the kind of things we can do. Obviously, we have to be genuinely believing in the text, but we also have to interpret the context in a much more creative way so we can make progress in today's fund. Malaysia and Indonesia, I'm very happy to say, have incorporated zakat into their tax systems, which means that people who want to pay zakat don't think that if I pay zakat, I still have to pay tax, because it's contributing to the same kind of a pool, which is really a big advance. And I think if Pakistan does that, that will be quite a big achievement. Then Dr. Saqib can tax from the tax authorities without these restrictions. So that will be quite legitimate. However, these are all developing situations which we can use. Thank you very much all for staying behind. And Muhammad has already run into Friday today, but it is only Thursday, Muhammad. Twice you mentioned Friday. So it's not been that tiring. It has been tiring, but you're changing the context. And all of you are quite welcome to stay behind for the dinner, which will be at 7:30. Between now and then, there will be canapes and drinks, and you can network upstairs, and then join us back, and the room will be reset for Dr. Saqib to make another inspiring presentation on the Akhuwat. Thank you very much, and welcome again.